Hey everyone, welcome back to Trial and Error. Today's video is going to be about what we do with a large pepper harvest so that we don't waste the peppers. Oftentimes with pepper plants, you're not getting the 1 or 2 peppers you might need at one time for a recipe or whatever. So as an example with my super chilies, they are producing big harvests every time. So I'm not going to use, 25, 30 super chilies at a time. So I have to have a way to store them, prep them and store them so that they last me a while. And what I'm going to show you today is what I do to prep and store my peppers that are in excess of what I would use. I have quite a few peppers that I'm going to show y'all that I've harvested here within the last few days. I'm going to get those, show you what I do as far as chopping them up, whether it's sliced, chopped. I'm going to show you how we seal them up. I'll give you all that information. I'll even give you some info on the equipment that I use, and then at the end of it all, we'll wrap it up with some other ideas you can do, specifically with regard to storing the vegetables that you have and so on and so forth. We'll cover that at the end. But we'll get this video started. If you have any comments throughout, just leave your comments down there. Any suggestions, anything that you think is a better idea, or if you just want to talk about your successes, we like to read those. So make sure you leave those comments down below. But without any further delay, we'll get to the video. All right, so to start with, we'll talk about what I have here in my spread of peppers and tools. Is to start with my peppers. So I have 5 different kinds of peppers here that I'm going to work through today. We'll show you these. These big old boys are the sweet banana peppers. I've got them in all different sizes, but those are good ones. I've got a ton of these guys, the super chilies, and there are even more. There's more on the plant down there ready to go. Got jalapenos from 2 different plants. These are a combination of mammoth and I forget what the other one was called.
Mucho Nacho.
Oh yeah, Mucho Nacho. And then these guys are the same. I'll explain this a little bit, but this is the Hungarian hot wax pepper. And you see I got 2 different colors. So the Hungarian hot wax, you pull just like a jalapeno. If you want a difference in the way it tastes, the heat, whatever, you let it sit on the plant a little longer. Well, in this case, they're ready to go when they're yellow, like this guy. At this point, they are going to be a little bit more on the sweet heat side. Then when you let them get to this orangish red, this is when they're going to be at their max heat, which is roughly about, if I remember right, 10,000 Scovilles. So not crazy hot by any means, a little hotter than a jalapeno, and I could be wrong on that. Actually, I might be saying that wrong. Either way, the hotter, if you want it hotter, you let it get orange red. I'm sure somebody will correct me on that Scoville number. But, and then my last ones I have are the habaneros. These are the first 2 I've pulled so far. Pretty good size habaneros though. Been pretty proud of that. I also have down there a bunch of alter egos that are getting close. And then I have a bunch of ghost peppers that are ready to go. And what I'm showing you in this video is exactly what I'm going to do with those as well. So the fact that they're not in this video is not really that big of a deal. But the only thing that I'm going to do different in this particular case is for the most part, I'm going to use a 1/4 cup increment. That'll give me a pretty good amount for each little bag that I'm going to use. Now, the exception to that is going to be these 2 habaneros. Clearly, only 2 is not going to give me a 1/4 cup, but what these are going to give me is my perfect amount for putting in my next batch of salsa, which I will be working on here soon. So I will still bag these and put them in the freezer for now so they don't go bad, but they're not going to be a 1/4 cup increment in that particular bag. Now, we'll move to this first. So knives, you can use whatever knife you want, paring knife, whatever. All I'm going to be doing is just a quick slicing them into rings, just like you normally would, and then I will chop them from there. But I gotta plug this one. Is the best knife I've ever owned. It is the Sam the Cooking Guy 7-inch Nakiri. You can get them on his website. If you guys don't watch Sam the Cooking Guy, I would recommend it because it is, first of all, it comes up with some really great ideas, but second of all, he's just funny to watch sometimes. I also use, I cheat. I don't chop a lot by hand. I just get them in rings, and then I use this guy. As you can see, it's got blades there. You just put them on top of the blades and then smash it down with this, and you get nice, perfectly cubed, chopped vegetables, whatever you're going to use. And I use that for my salsa making too. And then we're going to use the Inkbird vacuum sealer. It is probably one of the best things I've ever owned as far as kitchen tools, because it allows me to do just this and keep my vegetables good. Just have some pre-made bags that I have already gone through to prep. And essentially what we're going to do is chop these up and then put them into their 1/4 cup increments, drop them in the bag, vacuum seal them, and then they are ready to go into the freezer. And I recommend that you label the bags, obviously, with the kind of pepper and how much, just so you remember. And then also the date that you put them in the freezer, because while they'll last a long time, if you get into your freezer and you find that you have some that are like 3 years old, it's probably time to go ahead and throw them out. Don't need to be getting sick when you're going to be growing new peppers every year, more than likely, or new vegetables in general, more than likely every year. So it's important to make sure you put that date on there. So I'm going to get set up to actually start this process and show you, and then we'll see you then. Okay, now that we're all set up, cutting board, my knife's ready, all my peppers over here to the side. I would recommend, so you don't have to keep making 3,000 trips to the trash can, that you just get you a little dish to put the tops in, and then that way you can just dump it all out at once. But we'll start with my jalapenos. We'll get those done first, but you know, just like you're going to do anything else, get rid of the top and then cut it into some slices. Now for this particular step, you can, if you would prefer, to core it and get rid of the seeds. If you're somebody that prefers them to be a little more on the mild side when you store them, I actually like to keep the seeds in when I do mine, and the reason is because, in my opinion, the freezing of these peppers kind of milds them out a little bit. I don't know if it's just because it, you know, freezes the moisture inside of them or whatever. I'm not a scientist, so I don't know, but at least in my experience, it seems like what was a very spicy pepper before it went in the freezer is a not as spicy pepper when it comes out. So I do like to go ahead and do them with the seeds in there. But we're just gonna chop all these, or cut all these up like this. Also of note, this would be a good time to put a disclaimer out there that if you are working with spicy peppers, now jalapenos will count, and you don't ask me how I know this, but typically you want to be careful because these oils will get on your skin for your hands, and then what'll happen is, if you're like me, is you'll touch your face or your eyes, and the next thing you know, your face, eyes, whatever you touch is now on fire. And so I would recommend you not do what I'm doing right now and actually put a pair of gloves on if you're going to be dealing with a lot of spicy peppers. Now, if you're just doing this with any other vegetable, you're safe. Don't worry about it. And when I go to do this with my ghost peppers, you can better believe I'm gonna have some gloves on. But definitely recommend that, because it does get pretty rough, and there are some really embarrassing ways to take some of that heat away from your skin and your eyes. Again, I know this because of maybe like a friend of mine. Just kidding. Milk. Huh? Oh. Milk is definitely one of the ways you can cool the heat that you have tortured yourself with. But you just look like an idiot, you know, in the shower pouring milk all over your face. So just FYI, wear gloves. Now, again, you can do this with a lot of different vegetables. Doesn't have to be peppers. I mean, actually, one that is a really good vegetable to do this with is onion. You can get, you know, white onion, yellow onion, whatever you cook with, and chop it up real nice, get it in bags and freeze it. You know, you can buy bags of frozen vegetables, or you can just do it yourself. That's, you know, if you're somebody that likes to grow your own stuff, you like to have a big garden, then by all means do your own. Like I said, you can do this with a lot of different vegetables, but what I would say is you will want to do some research on the shelf life of some of those, and whether or not you need to add anything to the bags. I know with peppers, you don't really have to add anything, and they're good for a pretty good amount of time. Like I've kept some upwards of a year, you know, before I use them. But I know there are some vegetables that, you know, if they sit too long, they can actually cause some problems. Tomatoes is one of those. That's why in my salsa, I don't make salsa that can be jarred properly, because you know, I don't put any preservatives in there, and tomatoes, if gone too long, can actually really make you sick. So you're going to want to do your research before you decide to do anything like vegetable or do anything with other vegetables than peppers. So we'll get all these chopped up, and then once we're to the sliced up, and then once we're to the next step of chopping, I will come back and we'll talk about how this works. Okay, so now that we have all of the jalapenos sliced, as you can see, there are a lot here. We will then use the fancy chopper, and we are going to, excuse that beep, that was me leaning up a little too hard against the dishwasher. But we're going to put them in this chopper, and I'll show you, you know, you can load this thing up really, it's kind of nice. But after you chop, what you'll see is now I have these nice little squares of jalapeno, and these make perfect sized bits for freezing in a bag. That's why we're going to use it. You can get one of these choppers just about anywhere. I know I think there's probably like 1,000 different brands that make it. This one's a Mueller. And I can tell you that you'll likely go through multiple of these, because they do crack after a while, because of all of the impact that it takes to sometimes push through. And if you have people that get scared really easily, you might want to have them put earmuffs on, because sometimes you got to slam down on this thing and it's loud. Now that I've diced them, you'll see just how much jalapeno that was. That was a lot of jalapenos. And that's good because I use jalapenos for a lot of stuff. This is like, jalapenos are great in just about anything. But specifically, you know, you want to add a little zing to your chili. Throw some diced jalapenos in there and then cook it. And all the oils and the juices from the jalapenos will get into that chili and it'll really flavor it up nice. But look at that, that's almost a full container of jalapenos. So just to, because I have to do so much slicing and dicing, we're going to dump that into its own container. There, you can even see it in that container. I mean, that's a pretty big container and it's full. Also be aware if you have animals, jalapenos can burn them just like it burns us. And if you fling a bunch on the floor, I'll bet you your dogs will go after it and eat it. So try to keep as much of it off the floor as possible, probably for your own sanity as well. All right, so jalapenos are done. I'm going to go ahead and do all the rest of the slicing and dicing on all of the rest of the peppers, get them in their own containers. And then when I'm done with that, then we will move into the measuring them out, getting them in bags, and vacuum sealing the bags. One thing that I probably didn't think about it until I started doing this was, you know, these super chilies are pretty small. And with that, this chopper, being that it is already set to chop into these nice square cuts, you really probably just do these peppers right into the chopper and not have to slice them, which would actually probably make this go a lot faster. The only thing I would note is that some of my super chilies I've had sitting in the house for a week and they've softened up a little bit, so I don't know if you can really see that, but some of it's sticking to the blades, but we'll get it all off there and into the container. So just a quick note. Okay, one more note. I think it's worth mentioning that if you're doing a lot of different kinds of peppers like I'm doing, specifically I'm talking peppers because with peppers you have this huge range of heat levels. I would recommend after you do a hot pepper and then you're going to transition to something that's maybe a little more sweet, that you go ahead and wash everything down. Because you don't want to get heat into something you don't expect to have heat. So if you're, you know, cutting up some jalapenos and then you want to roll to the sweet banana peppers or whatever, you're going to want to either do the sweet bananas first or make sure you wash everything off so that you don't get the heat into your sweet banana peppers. So just another quick note there. Okay, so all of the dicing and slicing is done. Not in that order, obviously, slicing then dicing, but all that's done, and now I have 5 containers of peppers, jalapenos, Hungarian hot wax, banana pepper, super chilies, and some habanero. Like I said, habanero is not going to make a 1/4 cup increment, but that's okay because I'm going to use this for salsa here probably this week. But 1/4 cup increments, just going to use this little scoop. I've pre-made bags. I originally only pre-made 10, had some battery issues with the camera, so it gave me an opportunity to make a bunch more. So now I have 20 ready to go. I've already made what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bags of jalapeno. You can see nice and vacuum sealed. So essentially what we're going to do is use a vacuum sealer to get these prepped for storage. And with them in vacuum bags, they can be stored in the freezer for a pretty good amount of time. I have had some that are at least a year. So you fill it up just like that, and then get your vacuum sealer, get it set up, clamp. Oh, you gotta do it right first. So in this case, it fell out of the valley. This valley right here, I don't know if you guys can see that, but that valley is where the opening of the bag needs to be in order to actually pull the bag, like vacuum the bag in. So you have to make sure that it's sitting inside of this valley when you close the lid so that it will actually vacuum. So with that said, it's actually important that you make sure that when you cut these bags, you don't cut them too small. In this case, it didn't work. So we're going to stop it. And we're going to open that one back up and use a different bag because that did not work. All right. Nothing like a failed bag for your first one to show. It is just sometimes how the luck goes. So we're going to pour that back in there. That bag's the waste. And we'll do it again. Hopefully this time I'll give you one that actually works. Okay, 1/4 cup increment. I think I got a little bit more bag to play with this time, so maybe it'll work. Close it down. There you go, you can see it vacuum up. And then it goes to just the seal after it's done with the vacuum. It'll go off one more time like so. And then that's it. And here you've got a 1/4 cup increment of jalapenos done and ready to go. So the cool thing about these vacuum sealers is that you can use them for a lot of different things. So while I keep working this, I'll explain some of the other things that you can use them for. For one, as I talked about, you can do this with any vegetables. I, for one, am a person that cooks with a lot of onions. I like to use them, but it is really annoying when, you're tired getting home from work or whatever, long day, and, you need to prep onions for the meal. So you got to sit and get them all chopped up and everything prior to cooking. Then you got to cook and so on and so forth. What this is good for is that you can prep in advance a lot of, chopping onions. So you get a weekend day and you're like, you know what, I got a bag full of yellow onions and I want to get them all chopped up. You can then get them all chopped up, put them in 1/4 cup, 1/2 cup, whatever. I use a lot, so I'd probably do 1/2 cup or more. And then that way you just throw them in the freezer, and when the time is right, just get them out, go ahead and throw them in whatever you're cooking and press on with your day. You can also, another thing I use it for is I make typically my own blend of chili spices for, when I make chili. So, and a lot of times what happens to me is that I'll get home from work and then my lovely wife says, hey, we're having chili today, which means, hey, you're going to cook chili today. So when that happens, it's kind of a pain in the butt when I got to sit and make everything up right then and there, because it takes time to measure everything out the way that I use it. So I will actually put my entire blend for my chili mix into small containers. I'll do multiple at a time, like sometimes 4 or 5 at a time. Pour them into these bags, vacuum seal them up, throw them in the pantry, and then when it's time to cook chili, guess what? I got my seasonings, probably have my onions in the freezer. Everything is good. But that's that. That's using the vacuum sealer to prep your peppers or your vegetables, whatever other vegetables you're using, for storage. 1/4 cup increments, like I said earlier, you want to label them. You want to label them with what they are and the date that you put them in here, because you don't want to end up with one that's 4 years old and you get sick. So we will finish this up. I think I still maybe short some bags, so I might have to do some more bag prep, but we'll get these all bagged up and then we will talk again when I'm done with that. All right, so we've finished everything up. We now have a whole bunch of bags of peppers. You know, you've already seen the jalapenos. Here we have that little bag of habanero. It's not really a quarter cup, but I marked it on there anyway. And then, you know, your super chilies, which a quarter cup of super chilies is actually quite a bit. But now that that's all done, you know, this just gets stored in the freezer. That way you can always go back to it whenever you need it for whatever you're trying to do. So you may be saying, I don't have a food, like a food saver or whatever. You don't have to have it. So if you want to, one way you can do this is to buy small freezer bags. Make sure if you do that, that you're getting freezer bags though, because just a regular, you know, sandwich bag or whatever is not necessarily going to keep it from getting freezer burnt in the freezer. So make sure if you want to go that route that you definitely get the right bags for that. Another question you might have is, or another comment you might have is, well, I don't have a bunch of pepper plants to pick from, but I'd still like to do this. Well, that's okay, because you can go to the store, buy whatever peppers that you need. And it doesn't have to be spicy peppers. You can do this with green peppers. You can do it with, you know, red peppers, red bell peppers, whatever you want. Throw them in some kind of bags. You know, if you have the sealer, great. If not, use some Ziplocs. And then prep everything in one time. Throw it all in the freezer. Use it for your projects later on. It is a little time consuming, for sure, having to put each one of these through the food saver or through the Inkbird here. Took some time, but it's a prep day. You get all this done, throw them in the freezer. When I don't want to have to prep, just get them out and we're good to go. So that's it for this video. Any comments down below, you know, make sure you let me know what you think, what works for you. And then please subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. Subscribing does not cost anything at all. Just click that subscribe button. It helps us out. And then, you know, keep an eye on our page. We'll be sending out more videos here in the future. And hope you have a good day, and we'll see you next time. It didn't record that whole time. Ow!
You burning?
No, I hit myself with this fork.
It's getting you, babe.
Mm-hmm. Get that weak side.